What is up, guys? Long time no see. Yeah, so I apologize about that, but yeah, so I'm sorry that I just disappeared without notice and stopped uploading videos. That was honestly and truly my bad. I just had a lot going on for a while, and not a lot of time to devote as much as I would like to this, and it also, I feel like I burnt myself out a little bit, trying to keep up with content and figuring out things to make and what to do and how to best please you guys and show you something that you haven't seen before. And I just felt like I was getting a little repetitive about my content and stuff, so I do apologize, but I'm back now. I'm hoping to do weekly videos tentatively. I'm just sort of kind of playing it by ear right now. But yeah, I'm back and I have something that I'm super excited to show you guys. This is the third or fourth time I've made this recipe, so it's not new to me, but it is new to you, and so that's exciting stuff. I feel like I'm like super awkward right now. I feel like I'm giving a speech in class, but it'll get easier, it'll get better. I promise. So today on Frady Bakes, we are not doing dessert, which I realize is a little bit of a deviation from what I tend to post on this channel, but we are baking, which is fun and exciting in and of itself. And since it's December and holiday season and we've got lots of family meals and gatherings and you know, potlucks and stuff, Friendsgivings, Thanksmisses and stuff, everybody likes bread. Everybody loves dinner rolls, and I have the best recipe for dinner rolls that I'm going to show you and make for you today. Yeah, so without further ado, let's get started. Yeah. Okay, so first things first, you need 2 packets, 1.5 tablespoons equally of active dry yeast, which I have here, and I have put it with a 1/4 cup of warm water and a teaspoon of sugar. The sugar basically just helps activate the yeast, gives it something to eat, so that it can get nice and foamy and bubbly like this, see here, because this just means that it's active and happy, and it's going to make our bread rise nice and tall. Okay, so this isn't just like a regular standard bread dough. This is kind of an enriched dough because we are adding milk, butter, and eggs. So it just adds to the decadence of it, and they form kind of like a sweet, like just, oh, wonderful, wonderful roll. Okay, so I have my KitchenAid mixer here, and I'm going to fit it with the paddle attachment. And I have 1/2 cup of softened butter. I figured out a trick to like get my eggs and my butter room temperature real quick without having to use the microwave. I put them over a vent in my kitchen, just like right there by the window, and I'll set them on there. Lola doesn't really mess with them, but I'll set them on there when the heat kicks on and runs for a few minutes, and then as soon as it's done running, these are good to go. So it's really nice, easy, and I don't have to wait all day for my butter to soften, and I don't have to ruin the integrity of it by putting it in the microwave. So. And we need a 1/2 cup of sugar. So like I said, these are kind of a sweet dough, which is really nice when you're eating them with savory foods. I made them for Thanksgiving, and my family loved them and ate all of them, and they were pretty small, so they were eating, you know, a lot of rolls. Carb heaven. So we're just gonna let that cream together for a minute. Okay, so that's gone on for a minute. And I now have 3 eggs at a room temperature that I'm going to add to this. So I put all 3 eggs in at the same time, and I also have 1 cup of warmed 2% milk. This is like just barely warm, not hot. It mixes a lot better when it's warm. It helps the yeast, but you don't want it hot because that will actually kill the yeast. So we're going to add this in all together. And I scraped down the sides of the bowl and got the butter in the middle so that it would mix evenly. I'm just gonna, oh, I hate that noise. Oh, it's so gross. So we're just gonna let this mix together for 2 more minutes. Okay, So that's been going for 2 minutes. Now we're going to add our proofed yeast mixture. So we're just gonna dump all of that foamy, delicious yeasty goodness in there. Just gonna sort of stir that in before I add our dry ingredients. So now we have here, we have 4 3/4 cups of all-purpose flour and also 2 teaspoons of salt. You want to keep your salt and your yeast until your yeast is activated separate, because salt kills yeast, which is why I went ahead and mixed this in. And even though our salt is incorporated into the flour, I just want to make sure that we're giving our yeast as much of an opportunity as possible to blossom and help our bread just be so light and fluffy. So we're going to add our flour into here. I'm gonna do about half and stir that together real quick, and then add the other half until it just comes together, and then I'm gonna switch to a dough. Other half. Get all that off of there. I just wanted to make sure that the flour was in and incorporated before we started kneading with our dough hook. And usually when I make this, I let it go with the dough hook, but I find that my mixer really isn't big enough to hold this dough, so I usually knead the last little bit of it by hand, just to get to the consistency that I want, and to know that it is actually like kneaded properly, worked properly. Plus kneading dough is fun. Oh no, there's hair. It's on mine, don't worry. It's clean, I washed it. Okay. So I'm just gonna take that off of there. There. And dough hook. So let that go, and we're gonna let it mix for about 5 to 7 minutes until the dough starts to pull away from the sides. Like I said, I like to knead the last little bit of it by hand, just because I don't want to burn my mixer up, and I don't really think that this is capable of handling this amount of dough. As you can hear, it's kind of ricketing, but we'll let it go for a little bit. Okay, so our dough has mostly, it's been going for about 5 minutes. It's mostly pulled away from the sides, but like I said, I like to finish it by hand just to know that I'm getting the dough to where it needs to be. Plus, kneading dough is fun. I like it. It's a good, pleasant experience. So you see how it's mostly pulled back from the sides? It's not quite elastic enough yet, so we're just gonna turn it out onto a floured work surface. The dough is really sticky. That has everything to do with the fact that it is enriched. So it's the butter and the sugar and all of the delicious goodness. You see? Good? Okay. We're just gonna pick it up, pull, push, pull, push. This is kneading. I'm gonna get your leaves out of the way. So I'm just gonna be kind of aggressive with it. You don't want to throw it around smack down or anything, but you do want to make sure that you are working it hard, activating those glutens. And then if it gets too sticky, which you don't want, just add more flour. You don't want too much flour because you don't want your dough to be too dry, but you don't want it to be slack either. Last 2 minutes that was supposed to be in the mixer. We're just gonna Okay, so our dough is ready. And how do I know it's ready, you may ask? Okay, look at this beautiful, beautiful gelatinous blob here. Okay, so when you poke it, bad. So, okay, so you poke it and it springs back. See, it's springy. So we have activated the gluten and the yeast is nice and happy. So I'm going to put this in a big glass bowl. There. So you can get a better view of it, see? It springs back. Ta-da. Yeah, so we're going to let that, this is going to proof, rise, whatever you want to call it, for 1 to 2 hours until it's doubled in size. And then we shall make our rolls. All right, we are back. Our dough has been rising for about 2 hours now. My kitchen's been in the house. It's been a little cold. It's raining outside, so it took our dough a little bit longer to rise. But here we are, doubled in size, if not just a little extra. You want to make sure you don't overproof it, because when it bakes, it'll puff up and then it'll just like shrink back down and like crinkle up and get this weird like little. But it just looks like you've, like, I don't know, like shrink wrapped it. They just get like a raisin. They look like raisins. We'll say that. Just wrinkly and, you know, not very appealing to look at. So we're just gonna slowly dump this out onto a lightly floured work surface, and that's just to keep it from sticking any further. Just going to gently coax it out. Here's our dough. Tipped it out onto the counter. I'm just gonna knock it back. Knock some of the air out of it. We're not kneading anymore, but we are getting the air that was puffed into it so we can work with it, because it'll have a chance to rise again. Okay, there's dough. Don't want to overwork it. Don't want to make it tough. Okay, so it says it'll make about 16 to 20 rolls. Now, each time I've made this, I've made them kind of small. So I guess if you wanted like big rolls, it would make 16 to 20, but I've been getting between like 24 to like 32 rolls with this. And so it's really just like personal preference. Now, we'll see what it looks like. This is a bench scraper. And this is the handiest kitchen tool I think that you can have. You can use it for so much more than just making bread and making dough. I've used it for scraping vegetables off of the cutting board. Okay. Oh, look. Okay, so this is how you know that your dough is good. Okay, see, this is the window pane test. And you can see through it. Nice and thin. It's good. Good dough. Good dough. All right. So I just cut off a little section here, and so you could just roll this into a ball if you wanted to. This is good dough to use for dinner rolls, like I said, but I want to do something special with it, and I'm going to be making pepperoni rolls today. So, like I said, you can just stop here, roll it into balls, put it on a baking sheet, let it rise again, bake it, call it a day. But if you want to do something special, you can stuff these, which is what I'm doing. I'm making pepperoni rolls, as I said. And if you're not from West Virginia or have not been in or lived in West Virginia, you probably don't know what pepperoni rolls are, because they're just generally like an East Coast food, but they were actually invented in West Virginia. So it's like West Virginia's like state food. These came about, oh gosh, sort of like turn of the century, like from like the 1800s into the 1900s. Coal mining is huge in the state of West Virginia. It was and still is a primary source of a lot of incomes, especially in the southern part of the state. And Italian immigrants were coming over and working in the coal mines, and noticed that a lot of the workers that were working in the coal mines would have like, you know, a stick of pepperoni or sausage, salami, whatever in one hand, and cheese in the other, or like a piece of bread in the other, and would just eat a bite and a bite. And one guy happened to, who was working in the coal mines, happened to think like, hey, you know, we should just combine these, just make it into one food. So that's how the pepperoni roll came about in like the 1920s, 1930s, which is really neat, so that you could have your pepperoni roll in one hand and your drink in the other hand. And they needed foods like this as they were working in the mines, just like quick and easy and fast, so that, you know, you could get back to work and back to earning a living for your family down in the mines. And they're so yummy. They have, like, it started in Clarksburg, I believe, was the first, like, fashioned restaurant, or, like, place that sold pepperoni rolls. But since then, they've branched out, and there are dozens and dozens and dozens of places throughout the entire state that sell pepperoni rolls, and there's no right or wrong way to do it. Everybody has their own recipe, especially if you are from and live in West Virginia. I've been making pepperoni rolls since I was 10 years old, and so it's been like 15 years, and I've modified my recipe over the years. I went from using frozen dinner rolls, or like, you know, moldable pizza crust, whatever, to actually making my own dough for it. So it's really, it's just really a good, wholesome, like snack type food. These are huge for game days if you are a Mountaineer fan or a you know, Marshall fan. Like, these are staple tailgate foods. You know, one of the donut shops here in town called JR's Donuts, was from the town that I live in. They have amazing pepperoni rolls. They honestly, like, can't be beat. And I know I feel like I'm struggling to relay all of this to you, but like, I'm such a big history buff, and it's really nice, I think, to pay homage to where you live, to know about your state, and to just be able to embrace it and build from it for future generations. Like, everybody knows that pepperoni rolls are a staple in our state, and, you know, like, they've helped, you know, people from, they kept miners from going hungry, and, you know, people all over the state have, as I said, adapted their own recipes for it. And, you know, there's no like right or wrong way to do it. Some people use stick pepperoni, some people use sliced pepperoni. I'm using sliced pepperoni today, and I'm using mozzarella cheese, just because it melts better, and I think it tastes really great in comparison with the pepperoni. So it's sort of like a little pizza in this little dough pocket here, without the sauce. And then you can put sauce in it. Some people do put sauce in it. I am personally a fan of the sliced pepperoni versus the stick pepperoni. I think it just like tastes better and has a better texture when you're eating the roll as a whole. But like, whatever you prefer, like there is no right or wrong way to do this. So I'm just going to keep making my rolls here. I'm just sort of guesstimating dough size. There's, like I said, it's just, it doesn't really matter. And I'm putting probably maybe 4 or 5 pepperonis in my rolls, and then just a cube, well, I'll do like 2 or 3 slices, a cube of cheese, and then 2 or 3 more slices, and then just bring the sides around. Oh no, oh. Bring the sides around and just sort of like tuck it all in together so that there's no gaps, so when our cheese melts, it doesn't melt, it doesn't come outside of the roll. And I'm just sort of rolling it in my hands after this to make sure the seam is nice and tight. And I'm putting it on a greased baking sheet, and I'm doing it so that the rolls are touching each other, but not like super duper tight, because we are going to let these proof again and rise. So for a second time, and that way they can grow without obstructing the other, pardon me, the other rolls, and keep them from rising. Oh gosh. You can use as much pepperoni, as much cheese as you want. I would just be careful. I cut my cheese into like relatively small-ish cubes. Like I said, they're gonna melt, and you don't want to use too much cheese. Like you can never use too much cheese, but you don't want to use too much cheese because it will leak out regardless of how well you've seamed your rolls. But yeah, West Virginia, it's such a beautiful state if you've never lived here or been here, and it's honestly sort of like one of the unsung wonders, I think, of the United States. It's just, there's a lot of culture and history, and some of it isn't great, and I think we get a really bad reputation for being sort of like country bumpkins, people who marry their cousins, and while I'm sure that that does happen, somewhere along the lines, there's so much more to us than that. You know, like we have such a great and rich history. Like we were formed, or we became our own state in 1863 during the during the Civil War. We were originally a part of Virginia, and we didn't believe in slavery. I guess we didn't think that, didn't want to fight for the South, didn't want to be included with it, and where we were situated, we weren't really included in the war, but we also didn't really want to be affiliated with that. So we became our own state in 1863, which is pretty exciting. But yeah, West Virginia is just, it's very special to me. My parents got divorced when I was, I think I was 6 when we moved to Colorado, and I lived in Colorado for 10 years, but I still visited my dad during the summers and at Christmas time, and I always loved coming back here. Anytime I had a project in school about like a state or something unique, whatever, I always pick something from West Virginia, just because this is my home. Like, even though I had a different home mostly full-time for 10 years, it was never really home. Whenever I flew back at like Christmas or over the summer, like I said, I'd always say like, oh, you know, I'm going home to my friends, and you know, they never really understood what I meant, but you know, home is where your heart is, and my heart has excuse me, always been in West Virginia. I'm getting choked up, oh my god. But yeah, it's a, oh my god, whew, wow, this is unexpected. Anyways, so I come and visit and see my dad, and like all my family is here, and we've been here for, my family can be traced back in West Virginia for like, gosh, over 100 years, I think, and I think that's really impressive. I don't know where I'm going with this. So we're just rolling our dough. Oh my goodness, I'm screwing this up big time, I tell you. I'm also really surprised that my lipstick has held up this long. Not that I've like ate or drank a lot today, but I'm like, I don't wear like lip products like at all, just because I'm so like sort of reckless with it. Like Jake and I are pretty affectionate with each other, you know, so I don't want anything to like rub off on his lips. And my hubs, you know, and I just like, I'm always like touching my face and like my mouth, and so I just get like lipstick all over myself, which is just embarrassing when you're 26 years old. It's like I'm a child all over again. Oh golly. I've found that doing them this way, it's kind of hard to get an equal amount of roll on top as it is on bottom. An equal amount of dough on both sides of the filling. Just because like for whatever reason, they just like when you're putting the filling in here, I'll show you. So do that, and you like squish it down, and then put a piece of cheese, and then put a few more pieces of pepperoni on top of that. So you're just like tucking and like rolling the extra dough over it, so that before you've like meshed it together, like you can see the top part that has the pepperoni in it, and like there's just, oh god, all this extra dough here on the bottom. So I just try and like roll it around so it's sort of evenly dispersed, so that when it rises and when it bakes, that the pepperoni and the cheese is, oh gosh, in the middle and not, you know, all, you know, there's not, you know what I'm trying to say, that it's evenly dispersed. The pepperoni and the cheese is in the middle, and there's a roll on either side. And this bread dough is really good. Like, you don't want to have any extra. You know, if you have to add to a roll or, you know, make one a little bit thicker. My cheese. Oh no. Then that's what you have to do. You have to make one a little bit thicker than the other. Just like people. Some of us are thicker than others. I happen to be a thick person. I've embraced it. Jake doesn't complain, so, you know, whatever. I've also decided that I don't think that I can have caffeine, because I get really weird when I've had a lot of caffeine. I had 1 cup of coffee this morning. One little like 8-ounce cup of coffee that I made at the house, by the way. And after I finished the first part of this, I was like sitting on the couch and Jake was here, and I am still really self-conscious about recording these and doing these, even though I've been doing it for the better part of a year. He had on like noise canceling headphones that I got him for his birthday, and I was like trying to tell him that he could take his headphones off because I wanted to talk to him, so I was just like pestering him. I was like, Jake, babe, 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 babe. And I was laughing at myself, as I do just about every day. And finally his song stopped, and I was like, Jake! And he like jumped out of his chair. He was playing video games. But it was quite comical, if I do say so myself. Probably just had to be there. Okay, oh, this is heavy. Okay, so here are our pepperoni rolls. Now, some people roll them like in spirals, and that's good too. I like that. I just think this is nice. This is more like chomp friendly, I guess, because they'll like rise up and it'll be like a roll, so you can just and eat it that way, as opposed to, I don't know, hamburger versus hot dog in this sense. I prefer hamburgers, some people prefer hot dogs. I like round buns, some people prefer long buns. Anyways, so yes, so these are going to be covered up, and this is a greased baking sheet, by the way. So these are going to be covered up, and we're gonna let them rise for another hour, and then we're gonna bake them at 350 degrees. Before they bake, you're going to brush the top with some sort of softened melted butter, and then bake them for 14 to 18 minutes. I'm gonna do probably like 20 to 22 minutes, and probably rotate halfway through baking just to make sure they're baked evenly and that the tops are nice and golden and brown. And then I will show you what they look like when they're done. Okay, so pepperoni rolls just came out of the oven probably about 2 or 3 minutes ago. I just wanted to, oh, look, it's hot. You see the steam coming off of that? Look at this. This is perfectly done. I baked these 20 minutes. See that flake there? It tells you that it was proved properly. It was baked properly. You can see these tear apart really nice. There's like no like doughiness. It's doing that because it's still hot, but it's nice and springy. A good indication of knowing when your bread is done is, see, it sounds hollow? That means it's cooked all the way through. Even though it has stuffing in it, it's cooked all the way through. So I'm gonna slice this open. Ooh. Maybe not the best idea. All my pepperoni and cheese came out. Oh, golly. Okay. Oh, look at the inside of there. Yeah, you can see our pepperoni and our cheese and our dough is cooked. I know it's super hot, but so you have like the salty spiciness and like the bite of the pepperoni, and then you have like the creamy like luxuriousness of the mozzarella, and then you just have this like sweet lightness of the bread. Praise be. These are amazing. Not to toot my own horn, but super good. I am going to let these cool, and then I'm going to bag them up. We're taking them to a friend's tomorrow for the football games and stuff. You know, Sunday football, whatever. But I might enjoy one or two more. You never know. Thank you so much for watching this and for sticking with me despite my absence for the last 6 months. It really means a lot that I still have some dedicated viewers out there who have asked where I've been and if things are okay and checking in on me, and I really truly value that and appreciate that, and I have not forgotten about you, I promise. I'm back, I'm here, we're doing this again, we're sticking with it this time, hopefully. I know life gets in the way, but I just wanted to thank you again, and I have not just been like completely MIA. My Instagram has still been active. I've still been actively posting on Instagram of things that I've done. I will include some pictures after we wrap things up here, but I just wanted to thank you all again, and until next time.